We have been at the school for over 2 months now. In that short time, it has begun to feel like a big family. Everyone works together very well. There are other kids for Ali to play with, and her teacher was even here. We had structured activities and lessons for the kids, group meals in the cafeteria, story time and games at night, and the adults took turns being on watch. Each day, I would walk around the school and check out every room in the basement. So far, there had not been any sign of the roots or the changed people. I kept expecting this time of peace and calm to go away any time, especially with the massive roots that weren't too far from the school. I learned that it was Sarah's husband and her brother and sister-in-law in the truck who had come out to try to help us. After expressing my thanks for getting us here and my condolences for her loss, she had gone right back to reaching out for other survivors on the radio. I'm sure it helped her to have a purpose and a distraction from her devastating loss. At night, after Ali fell asleep, I would meet up with Jessica and a few of the others to develop plans for an escape for when we needed it. There was a large fenced-in parking lot for the buses within the school grounds. Arvin, the father of one of Ali's friends, was a janitor for the school and knew where the keys were stored. He and I ran out there one day and opened the gate to the parking lot. We located a bus that was already facing the gate, bus number 40, to let us quickly drive out of here. He started it up to make sure it worked and was set on gas before shutting it off. The engine sounded extra loud in the surrounding silence from the lack of traffic and people. Luckily, it didn't seem to draw any attention to us. I placed the keys for the bus on the counter in the main office so they would be ready at a moment's notice. Every week, he and I would go out there and start the engine up and run it for a short time to make sure the battery remained charged. All of the exterior doors were locked to anyone outside, but could easily be opened from the big push bars inside, allowing for a quick escape. Ali's teacher, Miss G, suggested we keep a couple supply bags by each of the exits so we would at least have some things if we had to make a quick escape. We would have regular emergency drills with planned escape routes and a meeting place by the bus. It was strange at first staying here, but it began to feel like a new normal after a short while. It was so great to have everyone working together and sharing ideas for how to keep us safe. Every Under the World or disaster survival movie I've seen always portrayed the people as just as bad as the monsters, or even worse. This is how I always thought it would go. People coming together when they need to, for the good of everyone. We even had holiday celebrations for Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, Christmas and Kwanzaa. Those were also great learning opportunities for the kids and even the adults to learn about the different celebrations and cultures. During some of the snowstorms, we were able to take the kids outside in small groups to make snowmen and build snow forts. We always kept close to the school and had adults assigned as lookouts. I hadn't seen Ali this happy in a long time. There were enough classrooms and other rooms to have separate areas for each of the families. Ali and I had one of the kindergarten rooms with a sink, bathroom and small fridge. Last night, after I tucked Ali in, she stopped me before I went out the door. "Dad, can we stay here forever?" I smiled at her. "We'll stay here as long as we can. I love you, sweetie." "I love you too." I gave her another hug and then turned to leave again. "Dad, I have one more question," she said. "Where will we go if we have to leave?" "I don't know yet, but I'm figuring that out with some of the others. If we have to leave, we are all going together, and I'm sure we will find another place." "Okay. Good night, Dad." I said goodnight again and left the door slightly ajar on my way out. Even though I really hoped we could stay here for a while, I was sure that our bad luck would run out soon. We've had a couple of months with no incidents, but we haven't been able to reach anyone new for 2 weeks now, and our food supply was starting to run out. Jessica was waiting for me down the hall. "How's she doing?" she asked. "She's holding up pretty well. I'm just worried how she'll be if we end up being separated when we have to leave," I said. "We've been safe for this long, so maybe there's a chance we can stay longer," she said. "I sure hope so," I said. We walked down the hall, past the About Me pictures of the kindergarteners, with their cutely drawn smiles and their phonetic-based writing. I remembered volunteering for the holiday parties when Ali was in kindergarten and part of the first grade before COVID, and then all this changed everything. The kids were so excited to do the crafts and activities at each station, and they were even more excited to pick out a juice box and a snack. I always enjoyed those times, but never thought they would end so quickly. We went into the cafeteria where the 3 others were waiting for us. Our group consisted of Laura, a 3rd grade teacher from one of the other elementary schools in the district, Brian, a parent of 3 kids at this school, and Arvin. After some initial small talk, Laura began our serious discussion. I think we've done a great job preparing everyone for an emergency and making sure we have an escape plan, but we haven't really gone very far beyond these walls to see how close the danger is to us. We've been here for a while now, and I think that we've been very lucky nothing has happened. But how long will that last? We have checks every day around the building, and people taking turns on watch for any danger. So what more are you suggesting? Asked Brian. Laura turned to Jessica and I. When you came here, you said there was a large stretch of those roots or tentacles you had to cross. With how big those things get, and how fast they seem to grow, won't it be reaching us soon? Shouldn't we go check to see how far away they are now? I thought of poor Anna when we crossed the crumbling ground, and the group in the truck trying to help us. This is a good idea, Laura, I said, but I don't want us to lose anyone else. The ground, it just fell away when she ran across it, and the people in the truck had no chance. If we have anyone go, they will have to move slowly and take precautions. I'll go, said Jessica. I've seen what those tentacles can do, and I know how to protect myself. I can go with you, said Arvin, and I bet we can find at least one more other volunteer from the group. No, it will be better if I go alone. I can move faster, and if something happens, we aren't losing a lot of people again. We can have people stationed outside to keep lookout for you, and you can radio us if you need help, said Laura. When are you thinking about going? First thing in the morning, she said. I'll plan on going about 7 in the morning. I'll check to see who else is still up and around now, and try to get some volunteers to be lookouts. Hopefully, some people with hunting experience and rifles, I said. Check with the Barnes, said Laura. I had one of their kids in my class before, and she would share stories of their hunting and camping trips. Will do, I said. Anyone know how they are doing with the food supplies? Sarah has been keeping me track everything, said Arvin. I checked with her earlier in the week, and she thought we'd be good for at least another month. Pretty much everyone brought food with them when they came here, and there were a lot of dried goods on hand. After Jessica checks it out tomorrow, we can start figuring out some of the plans to get more food, said Brian. Good idea, Brian, I said, and got up from the table. I'm going to go start my recruiting for tomorrow. Jessica, let me know if there's anything else I can do to help. I said goodnight to the others and went walking around the school. There were a few people in the gym playing basketball. Once they had a break in the action, I let them know the plan and was able to get 2 volunteers. I wanted to have at least 5 people, so we could assign different areas for each person to watch and have one keeping a close eye on Jessica. We had a couple of rifles in our stash, but hopefully there would be more. There was some laughter coming from the teacher's lounge, and I peeked in to see a few of the high school-aged kids sitting around and talking and appearing to be having a good time. Need anything, Mr. Joe? One of them said. No, just checking to see who was in here, I said. Have a good night. I continued down the hall and into the library. There were a few kids in there, reading along with a science teacher from the high school, Mr. Cook. Hey, Nick, I said quietly, even in the scenario we found ourselves in, the library rules still applied. I'm looking for a couple more volunteers to be on lookout tomorrow, while Jessica goes to check on the area surrounding the school grounds. Would you be willing to help? Hi, Joe, he said. Yes, I'll gladly help. Great. She's planning on going about 7 in the morning, I said. We'll meet in the gym at 6:30. I'll have coffee ready. Do you happen to have a gun or binoculars? He shook his head no. I don't have a gun, but I do have a nice pair of binoculars that I will bring. I have a gun and can help, a girl's voice said. We turned to one of the kids sitting down at the table. She had just set down the Harry Potter book she was reading. I had seen her before, but didn't remember her name. I think she was in late middle school, or had just started high school. Mr. Cook walked over to her. That is nice of you to offer, Carolyn, he said, but we'll have to check with your parents first. I'm sure they won't mind. I'll go get them now, she smiled, and then ran out of the library. I went back to talking to Mr. Cook until a few minutes later, when Carolyn returned with her mum and dad. I was happy to see that it was the Barnes who I had been trying to locate. I couldn't remember their names either, but had talked to them on a couple of occasions, and they seemed like a nice family.
"Hi, Mr. Cook and...
Mr. Barnes paused. "Joe," I said, feeling better about my forgetfulness with names.
"That's right, Joe," he said. "Carolyn said you need guns and help tomorrow morning," he continued.
I proceeded to go over the plan for tomorrow, and then Mr. Barnes said that all 3 of them would help. That was more people than I thought we needed, but more people should make it safer for Jessica if something goes wrong. After telling them all to have a good night, I headed back to our room. I entered the room quietly, closing the door softly behind me. The gym mat wasn't the most comfortable to sleep on, but like anything that becomes routine, you get used to it. The hum of the ventilation system was good at drowning out any other noises in the school, and was the perfect white noise, as I drifted off to sleep. I awoke suddenly from a hand shaking my arm. "Wake up, Joe!" Jessica whispered. "Come on, get up! Something is happening!" As the room came more into focus, I noticed the silence all around us. The hum of the vents had ceased, and it was eerily quiet. The exit sign was still illuminated, but it was clear that the main power was out. The air had a chill to it, and it must have already dropped a few degrees. I grabbed the flashlight from my backpack next to me, along with the rifle I'd been keeping close by. Ollie was still asleep, and I wasn't sure whether or not to wake her yet. Jessica motioned for me to follow her out of the door. "What's going on?" I asked. "I'm not sure," she said. "I woke up a few minutes ago and came to get you after my lights wouldn't work." "Maybe we should check the circuit breakers," I said. "But first, let's just do a quick walk around the building and make sure there are no signs of entry." "Good idea," said Jessica. The sound of footsteps drew our attention towards the way to the cafeteria. They echoed loudly throughout the silent hallway. We both pointed our flashlights in that direction and saw Sarah coming towards us. "Hi, Sarah," Jessica said. "Did the silence and the cold wake you up too?" "Yeah," she said while hugging her arms. "You're the first ones I've seen up so far." "We thought we would go check the circuit breakers to see if something got tripped and to see if there are any breaches in the building," said Jessica. "That's happened a few times," said Sarah. "With all the people here and everything that's plugged in, I'm sure that something just got overloaded again. Up until now, we've been lucky that it has happened during the day." "I don't want to leave Ali alone," I said, "but I'd rather not wake her unless we know there is danger." "I can stay here with her and you 2 can go," said Sarah. I hesitated for a moment and strained my ears to listen for any threatening sounds. "Okay, thanks," I said. "If anything happens while we're gone, just make sure you get her to the boss." "I will," said Sarah. We headed away from the cafeteria, trying to walk as quietly as we could. However, each noise we made was amplified over the extreme quiet of the building. The hall went into a big rectangle this way, with one part extending to the main office, and then the gym. A group of people had decided to share the gym, so we were extra quiet when we peeked in there. Just the sounds of deep breathing and snoring were all we heard. We didn't see any problems during the rest of our walk either. We didn't go into the rooms with closed doors, but we stopped and listened for a minute or so at each. Finally, we entered through the open double doors into the cafeteria. The cafeteria doubled as a theatre, with a stage on the opposite end of the kitchen area. Double doors on one side led to the playground, where the kids would go for recess after lunch during normal times. Shining our flashlights on the doors showed no signs of entry. The basement stairs were behind a door on the side of the stage, and the basement was only about the size of the cafeteria. I had gone down there a few times when it had been my turn for ensuring the building was secure. The door creaked open, and we went down the stairs slowly, our lights leading the way. Old desks and equipment were along the walls, and the boiler system was on the far end of the room. It was quiet down here as well, which was more unusual without the normal sounds of the boiler. A loud, single clicking noise broke the silence as we pointed our flashlights around the room. We checked out the whole area and didn't see any broken walls or floors, but we heard 2 more clicks coming from the wall with the fuse box. We quickly went over to the fuse box and opened it up. Nearly half the switches had tripped. I tried flipping a couple of them back on, but they immediately tripped again. While we were looking at it, another one tripped with another loud click. We shared confused looks with each other before the remaining switches tripped in rapid succession. Then, the screaming started.